solidified this this identity in LGBT community? Like, what was the point where you felt like, the church teachings, like I cannot deal with what the church is teaching, and what was the moment where you felt like, man, I think I need to be part of the LGBTQ community?
I can't think of a particular moment, but I will say that for most of this kind of journey of trying to reconcile these two parts of my life, it was just a very mental, very intellectual thing. It wasn't real yet until I moved away from home, and I think I was 16. I went to a boarding school in Singapore, and there I actually entered into a relationship with another girl. And so kind of in the process of deciding to be in that relationship, I realized I was choosing one thing over the other. And so this was around the same time where I stopped going to church. I was very comfortable kind of dropping that part of my life, and that's, I guess you could say, when the identity became a reality, and I made the decision to fully accept that as who I was and put aside my faith, because that was at odds with what I identified as.
Did you ever find yourself being pulled in two directions? I know at this point of time you're like, okay, the church clearly doesn't, seemed like the church doesn't accept me, but I still am drawn towards the church. Did you feel a pull from both sides, from the LGBTQ community and from the church? And like, what was the experience like, when this was happening to you, if this was happening to you?
I definitely felt a pull in both directions. Like I said, I grew up Catholic and I really liked being Catholic. I liked going to church. I remember my second year in Singapore. This is kind of when I had already entered this relationship and I was living this life. All my friends, I had come out to all of my friends. So everyone kind of knew that this was my identity. And it was Holy Week. And Holy Week meant, going for Maundy Thursday Mass, Good Friday service, Easter Vigil Mass. Like, this was my entire life growing up. And I remember sitting on my bed in the boarding school and just kind of like reckoning with myself, like, are we really going to miss Maundy Thursday Mass? Are we really going to miss Good Friday? Like, Holy Week was my favorite part of the entire liturgical calendar, even more than Christmas. I just felt like it was just so dramatic, like everything that the church did during that week. It was so meaningful. It was so, like, beautiful to witness. And I just couldn't kind of accept that I was really going to not go for any of these services. And I ended up, I think, going for the Easter Mass, but I missed like Good Friday and Maundy Thursday, which was, I think, at the time was the first time in my life that I missed those masses. But like there really was a turmoil, and I wasn't always aware of it. Like, sometimes it was a very subconscious thing, but it was definitely an undercurrent during those years. It wasn't very easy for me to drop that identity. It took a lot of struggle.
Were there moments in your life where you try to justify your lifestyle choices with your Catholic faith? And if you did, like, how did you reconcile between those two?
What comes to mind is when I moved back from Singapore, I moved back to Pune, and I kind of entered a really liberal college. And at the same time, I joined a youth group, a Catholic youth group. And it was probably during those years where I really, because I was kind of in touch with the church again, I was going for Sunday Mass. I used to go ever so often for these prayer meetings. And at the same time, I was living a sinful life in college. I was in impure relationships and things like that. And probably during that time, it was probably the first time where I tried to kind of justify what I was doing to myself. And my justification was mostly that, God wouldn't care what I was doing with my body as long as I wasn't hurting anyone and as long as I was happy. So those are like kind of what I would tell myself, is that, people are trying to tell me, or like people would say, if they knew the life I was living, people would say that what I'm doing is wrong, but God wouldn't, because God is love and God loves me and his love is unconditional. And so he wouldn't have an issue with it. And I'm concerned with him and not with all these other people. That's kind of how I would justify it to myself, I suppose.
Okay, Krysanne, were you really happy living that lifestyle? What you were doing versus what the church wanted you to do. Did it live up to the expectations that was said by the LGBT community?
I'm sure if you asked me back then, I would have said, yes, I'm happy. But now I can kind of tell you that I wasn't. But there was also some signs. Like, for example, I struggled with depression pretty much during all of those years. I was not actually diagnosed with it, but my school counselor was pretty sure that I had mild depression. He referred me to get properly diagnosed, but I never actually went and got diagnosed. I also would self-harm. That was a pretty big part of my life, and I also would think about ending my life quite often. And so I really wasn't happy, and I wasn't feeling as fulfilled as I would have liked. But I guess what I told myself, and what also unfortunately my friends told me, is that this is just what it means to grow up. Everyone's depressed. Everyone thinks of ending their lives. This is just a regular part of being an adult, and basically that this, I just need to accept it as part of my life, as a fact of my life, and not try to get rid of it, or not try to change my life so that I no longer was depressed. It was just oh, this is just life. This is just how it's going to be forever.
Did you feel the reason why you moved to this lifestyle? Do you ever feel misjudged by either your family, your friends, or the church? Do you feel like they judged you for who you think you were, and the struggle that you had with your identity?
I don't know if I experienced a lot of actual judgment from friends or family, and the reason for that is probably that if I knew that my lifestyle was not going to be accepted by someone, I just wouldn't tell them. So I was really living a very high degree of a double life, where I lied a lot, I hid a lot of things from different groups of people. And so even when I was kind of in this youth group, once I moved back to Pune, there were a lot of things of my life that I just did not tell them, or I just didn't show to them, because I definitely anticipated some kind of judgment, or I guess I was scared of being scolded or being told to stop doing what I was doing, and I just did not want to have those kinds of conversations. And so I hid a lot of things, kind of anticipating judgment.